But the childhood she endured before building a successful life for herself is an astonishing story, not just of rags, but of vicious beatings with whips and belts, neglect, hunger and periods in the care of social services, along with two of her sisters. "I was a feral child," Rachel, 50, says, speaking from her stunning six-bedroom home in the Sussex countryside. "There was no parenting and there was no affection. We never actually knew what we had done wrong, but if we had irritated our mum we had to go and tell our father, who would beat the hell out of us. It was random things. I got a hiding for not eating the inedible packed lunches my mum made. One of the worst beatings was because I'd lost a blue nightie, but it never had a blue nightie. Dad would slap our bare bottom with his hand so hard that we had imprints that would last for days that we had to try to hide at school. Or he would hit us with a belt, leaving us with cuts. You had to make yourself cry, because if you didn't, he would think you hadn't had enough. We had a dog and one day it did something they didn't like. We knew it was going to get whipped, so we hid the whip trying to protect the dog. They said, 'We know you've taken it, so we're going to whip you instead of the dog,' which they did." Rachel, who was born in Devon, was taken into care when she was 8 months old. She was the result of her mother's affair with a male friend, and her mother's husband could not wait to get rid of her. She says, "According to a social services record, there was an accident outside my house. The police came round to get a statement from my mum, who was a witness, and they found me sitting on the floor on a wet newspaper with no clothes. It was December, there was no heating and I was blue. Apparently, when social services came to take me, my stepdad threw me at them. I was taken to hospital suffering from hypothermia. The incident resulted in the three sisters going into care. While her daughters were away, Rachel's mother divorced her husband and married Rachel's father. 2 years later the children were returned to the family, who then moved to Suffolk. And we somehow fell off the social services radar," Rachel says sadly. "They said they would stay in touch, but they didn't. If they had, it would have been a very different outlook. Instead, Rachel and her sisters were left to fend for themselves." She says, "We'd come out of care and like most kids who are traumatized, there were bedwetting incidents. 3 of us were sharing a bed and the bed rotted through, so we took the wheelbarrow down to the local tip and found a thrown-out old mattress. At this stage we were aged 8, 6 and 4. We would have done anything rather than tell our parents. At 4 I was getting myself up, rummaging through the laundry pile to find anything clean and getting myself to school. My classmates nicknamed me Fleabag and bullied me relentlessly. Meals were bread and the cheapest cooking margarine, cold baked bean sandwiches and shredded wheat without milk. One year we lived in a caravan with an outside toilet. We then moved into a house, which had a portal, but they said that was for adult use only, so we had to carry on using the outdoor toilet. At no point did they ever say anything like, 'I love you,' or 'I'm proud of you.' I don't remember being hugged ever. I think my parents had severe mental health problems and mum was clearly bipolar. She'd go on a frenzy of activity like painting the whole house in days, and then she'd go to bed for days and not be able to function. My father drank heavily. Growing up, Rachel and her 3 sisters, a 4th daughter was born later, lived in 13 different houses and attended 9 different schools. "My parents were fantasists," she recalls. "We once lived in a big mansion in the middle of nowhere. It was 72 steps up to our bedrooms in the attic. But it hadn't entered their heads how they were going to heat this house or clean it or pay the rent. My dad changed his occupation every week. He went from butcher to accountant to fruit shop owner and then restored old houses. He made it up as he went along. He'd hold down a job for a few weeks and then pack it in. Then, incredibly, during the worst of all the abuse, my parents, in their delusion, set up a healing sanctuary, because Dad thought that he was a spiritual healer. They were giving out love and kindness in the very room where he was beating us." Despite it all, Rachel did well enough in her A-levels to win a place to study business at Leicester's de Montfort University and left home at 18. She went on to build a successful career working for a large software company, and maintained minimal contact with her parents, but then in 2000 disaster struck. Complications from a routine appendix operation left her suffering seizures and bedridden for 9 months. She was eventually diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, which laid her low for several years. In 2007 she launched the Tiny Box Company, ironically because she thought she was too ill to work full-time for anyone else. She quickly realized that she needed investment to take the company forward, so in 2008 she went on the BBC show Dragon's Den to pitch her case. Dragon's Peter Jones and Theo Papaitis were so impressed by her eco-friendly packaging enterprise they backed her to the tune of £60,000. Now the Tiny Box Company is the UK's largest online green gift packaging firm. But despite her success and wealth, life has been far from easy. In 2016 Rachel had successful treatment for breast cancer, and in 2019 she needed an operation to remove a tumor from her lung. She is currently in remission. Yet she refuses to let the hard knocks hold her back. What is happening where you live? Find out by adding your postcode or visit in your area. Happily married, she lives with her husband Steve in Sussex and is now set to expand with her new business, Air Active, which launches next month, selling sustainable sportswear. Rachel's mother died in 2011 and her father passed away in 2017. Incredibly, she and her youngest sister nursed them both while they were ill, and Rachel even paid her father £250 a month to top up his pension. "What's the choice?" she says. "You either forgive and move on, or you let it eat you up. My mum would never talk about the past or admit anything, and my father could remember very little because he was in this alcoholic haze at the time. His eyes would well up when we told him stuff, and towards the end of his life we became quite close. I have accepted what happened and moved on. I don't think they were bad people, they were just bad parents," she explains simply. Meanwhile, Rachel believes her traumatic upbringing helped prepare her for the struggles of the business world. "It taught me the utmost resilience," she reflects. "After what I went through, I never wanted to be without money, I always wanted to be able to support myself. Now I hope by sharing my story I will be able to help other people who've been through similarly awful times to move on with their lives."